Captain Maya Reeves stood at the main window of the UES Defiance, watching something that would change everything. Far in the distance, bright flashes of light marked the death of another human ship. The colony vessel Horizon's Dream was breaking apart, its pieces floating in the cold darkness of space. She had seen this happen too many times before. The Vorthok raiders had struck again, and once again the Galactic Council had done nothing to stop them. Maya's hands pressed against the metal frame of the window as she watched rescue ships move toward the wreckage, searching for survivors. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Tom Bradley from his station, "we're getting a signal from the rescue teams. They found 47 survivors out of 300 passengers." Maya closed her eyes for a moment. 253 people dead, 253 families destroyed, all because the Galactic Council refused to act against the Vorthok attacks. "Any word from the Council?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "The same response as always, Captain. They say they are monitoring the situation and will review all available options," Bradley replied, his voice showing his frustration. Maya turned away from the window and walked to her command chair. Around her, the bridge crew worked quietly, but she could see the anger in their faces. They had all lost friends and family to these attacks. They had all watched as the Council made excuse after excuse while humans died. Ambassador David Winters entered the bridge, his face pale and tired. He had just returned from another meeting with the Galactic Council, another attempt to get them to act. Maya could tell from his expression that it had gone badly. "Let me guess," Maya said. "They voted to form another committee to study the problem." David nodded slowly. "Worse, they said the Vorthok attacks are a regional dispute that doesn't require Council intervention. They suggested we try to negotiate directly with the Vorthok leadership." Negotiate? Maya felt her anger rising. "The Vorthok don't negotiate. They attack, they kill, they take what they want. That's all they understand." "I know that. You know that, well, the Council seems to think we can solve this with words and treaties," David said, sitting down heavily in a nearby chair. Maya looked at the datapad in her hand, showing the casualty reports from the latest attack. That Vorthok had been growing bolder over the past 3 years. What started as small raids on outer colonies had become massive attacks on major shipping routes. They targeted human vessels specifically, treating them like easy prey. The worst part was that humanity had followed every rule, every protocol, every diplomatic process the Council had established. They had filed complaints, submitted evidence, requested protection, and begged for justice. In return, they got meetings, committees, and promises that never became action. "How many more have to die before they take this seriously?" Maya asked. "I don't think they ever will," David answered. "The Council members see humans as newcomers, as a species that hasn't earned the right to protection. They think we're weak because we prefer talking to fighting." Maya stood up and walked to the communications station. "Get me a secure channel to Earth Command. Priority Alpha." "Captain, what are you doing?" David asked, but Maya was already speaking into the microphone. "This is Captain Maya Reeves of the U.S. Defiance. I need to speak with Admiral Harrison immediately. Authorization code Omega Sepnet." The screen flickered, and soon the face of Admiral Patricia Harrison appeared. The old woman's eyes were sharp and focused, even though it was clearly late night on Earth. "Captain Reeves, I have been watching the reports from your sector. Another attack." "Yes, Admiral. The Horizon's Dream, 253 dead. The Council has officially declared it a regional dispute and refused to act." Admiral Harrison was quiet for a long moment. "I see, and what do you recommend?" Captain Maya took a deep breath. She knew what she was about to say would change everything. "I recommend we stop asking for permission to defend ourselves. I recommend we withdraw from all Council accords and handle this ourselves." "That's a big step, Captain. Are you sure?" "Admiral, I've spent 3 years watching the Council fail to protect our people. I've seen them make excuses while our colony burn. I've watched them treat human lives as if they don't matter. We've been patient, we've been diplomatic, we've followed their rules, and all it's gotten us is more dead civilians." The Admiral nodded slowly. "I understand your frustration, Captain, but once we take this step, there's no going back. The other species will see it as an act of aggression." "Let them," Maya said. "Right now, they see us as weak. They think we'll accept any amount of abuse as long as we can stay in their little club. Maybe it's time we showed them what happens when humanity's patience runs out." David stood up quickly. "Maya, think about it. What you're saying, if we withdraw from the Council, we'll be on our own. No allies, no protection, no support. We're already on our own," Maya replied. "The only difference is that we'll stop pretending otherwise." Admiral Harrison leaned forward on the screen. "Captain, I want you to know that you're not the only one who feels this way. I've been getting similar reports from commanders across the galaxy. The Council's failure to act is becoming impossible to ignore. Then maybe it's time for a change, Maya said. I'll need to discuss this with the other admirals and with the civilian leadership. But Maya, if we do this, we'll need to be ready for the consequences. The Vorthok will see our withdrawal as a sign of weakness. They'll probably escalate their attacks. They will be ready for them, Maya said. We've been playing by their rules for too long. It's time they learn to play by ours. The Admiral was quiet for a moment, then nodded. I'll call an emergency meeting of the Defense Council. Stay in position and be ready to move on my orders. The screen went dark, and Maya turned to face her crew. They had all heard the conversation, and she could see the mix of fear and determination in their faces. Captain, said Bradley, are we really going to leave the Council, if that's what it takes to protect our people? Yes, Maya answered. We've tried their way for 3 years. It's time to try ours. She looked out the window again at the rescue ships still, searching through the wreckage of the Horizon Stream. Somewhere in that debris were the remains of families who had trusted the Council to keep them safe. That trust had been betrayed, and Maya was done watching it happen. Sir, called out Communications Officer Lisa Park. We're getting a priority message from Earth's command. Put it through, Maya ordered. Admiral Harrison's face appeared on the screen again, but this time she wasn't alone. Maya could see other admirals and civilian leaders in the background. Captain Reeves, after a discussion with the Defense Council and the civilian leadership, we have reached a decision. You are authorized to transmit the withdrawal notice to the Galactic Council. Effective immediately. Humanity is withdrawing from all Council accords and treaties. Maya felt a mix of relief and fear. Understood, Admiral. What are our orders? Begin. Immediate recall of all human personnel from Council space. Every ship, every diplomat, every advisor. We're bringing everyone home. And then, Admiral Harrison's expression became cold and determined. Then we show the galaxy what happens when you mistake patience for weakness. Admiral Jack Morrison was deep in the Klexery system when the message arrived. He had been training their defense forces for 2 years, teaching them how to fight off pirate raids that had been destroying their trade routes. The Klexery were a peaceful species, more interested in art and philosophy than warfare. They needed human help to survive. Admiral called out his aide, Commander Rita Wells. Priority message from Earth Command. Eyes only. Jack read the message twice before he believed it. Immediate recall. All human military personnel, no exceptions. He looked around the training facility where dozens of Klexery soldiers were practicing combat formations that he had taught them. Commander Wells, send word to all our teams. We pack up everything. We leave tonight, sir. What about the training program? We're supposed to be here for another 6 months. Change of plans. Earth wants us home, and Earth gets what Earth wants. Within hours, human transport ships were landing across Klexery space. Jack watched as his instructors loaded their equipment with quick, practiced movements. They had done this before, but never like this. Never with such urgency. General Vexter of the Klexery Defense Force approached Jack with confusion clear in his large dark eyes. Admiral Morrison, what is happening? Why are you leaving so suddenly? Orders from home. General, I'm sorry, but we have to go. But the pirates, they will return when they learn you are gone. My people cannot defend themselves without your guidance. Jack felt bad for the Klexery, but he had his orders. You'll have to do your best with what we've taught you. I'm sorry. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out on dozens of worlds. On the industrial planet of Nexus Prime, engineer Lisa Torres was shutting down the fusion reactors she had spent months upgrading for the Xanthari mining operation. Engineer Torres, pleaded Supervisor Krillinox, his forearms waving frantically. You cannot leave now. The reactors are only half finished. Without human technology, our entire mining operation will collapse. Lisa continued packing her tools into metal cases. That's not my problem anymore. I have my orders, but the contract. We paid for a full year of upgrades. Take it up with Earth. I'm just an engineer. Around her, the other human technicians were doing the same thing. They dismantled equipment they had built, deleted computer programs they had written, and removed upgrades they had installed. The Xanthari watched in growing panic as their most advanced systems went offline one by one. You're destroying months of work, Krillinox said. We're taking back what belongs to us, Lisa replied. The Xanthari never owned this technology. It just borrowed it. In the diplomatic sector of the Galactic Council station, Ambassador Rachel Hayes was cleaning out her office. She had spent 5 years trying to build bridges between humanity and the other species. Now she was burning those bridges. Council. Member Thylex of the Marathian Republic rushed into her office without being announced. Ambassador Hayes, what is the meaning of this? I've received reports that humans are abandoning their posts across the galaxy. Rachel looked up from the documents she was shredding. We're going home, Thylex, all of us, but this is impossible. Humans have contracts, obligations, treaties, had Rachel corrected. We had those things, now we don't. You cannot simply leave. The Council has procedures for withdrawal. There are proper channels. Rachel stood up and faced the alien diplomat. The same proper channels we used when we asked for protection from the Vorthok. The same procedures we followed when we requested justice for our dead civilians. Those channels led nowhere, Thylex, so we're making our own path. This is madness. Without human participation, half the Council's programs will fail. Then maybe the Council should have thought about that before ignoring our people's deaths. Similar conversations were happening all across Council space. Human doctors were leaving alien hospitals, taking their advanced medical knowledge with them. Human engineers were shutting down power systems they had designed. Human security advisors were walking away from protection details they had been managing for years. On the trading world of Velthor, Captain Rob Chen was loading the last of his crew onto their transport ship. The Velthori Port Authority was trying to stop them from leaving. Captain Chen, you have cargo deliveries scheduled for the next 3 months. You cannot simply abandon your trade routes. Watch me, Rob said, sealing the cargo bay doors. Find someone else to haul your goods. But the shipping contracts are void as of today. Humanity is withdrawing from all Council agreements. That includes trade deals. The Velthari officials' face went pale. You provide 60% of our intersystem shipping. Without human cargo vessels, our economy will collapse. Sounds like a you problem, not a me problem. Across the galaxy, the effects were immediate and devastating. Trade routes that had been protected by human patrol ships suddenly became dangerous. Pirate attacks increased as word spread that human security forces were gone. Diplomatic crises that human mediators had been managing began to spiral out of control on the research station orbiting Altair 7. Dr. Nina Foster was overseeing the evacuation of the xenobiology lab. The station's alien staff watched in confusion as humans destroyed years of joint research. Dr. Foster called out her Altarian research partner. Why are you deleting all the data? This research could help cure diseases across the galaxy. Human research, human data, we're taking it with us. But we worked on this together. Surely some of it belongs to the station. Nina paused in her work. The station provided the location. Humans provided the knowledge, the technology, and the breakthroughs. Without us, you never would have made any progress at all. She finished wiping the computer systems and turned to leave. Good luck rebuilding 20 years of research from scratch. In the Outer Rim territories, something else was happening that most of the galaxy didn't notice. Abandoned human research stations were suddenly coming back to life. Automated systems that had been dormant for years began powering up. Defense satellites moved into new positions. Communication arrays started broadcasting on encrypted frequencies. Captain Alina Rodriguez was overseeing one of these activations from her ship, the Silent Watcher. She watched as the research station transformed into something very different from what it had appeared to be. All systems are online, Captain, reported her technical officer. The defense grid is fully operational. Good. How many other stations have activated? 47 so far, with more coming online every hour. Alina smiled. The galaxy thought humans were abandoning their positions, but they were really taking new ones. Positions that had been planned for years, prepared in secret, and were now ready to serve their true purpose. Back on the Galactic Council station, emergency sessions were being called as reports came in from across the galaxy. Species that had relied on human expertise suddenly found themselves struggling to maintain basic systems. Worlds that had depended on human protection were now vulnerable to attack. Council President Morgeth called an emergency meeting. This is a disaster. Humans provide essential services to over 200 worlds. Without them, entire sectors could collapse into chaos. Perhaps we should have considered that before dismissing their concerns about the Vorthok, said Councillor Zethera dryly. This is not the time for blame. We need to convince them to return. I don't think they're interested in returning, Zethera replied. And frankly, after watching how we handled their requests for help, I can't say I blame them. The meeting continued for hours, but no solutions were found. The humans were gone, and they had taken their knowledge, their technology, and their protection with them. As the day ended, one thing became clear to everyone in the galaxy. They had seriously underestimated how much they depended on humanity. And now they were about to learn what life was like without them. Warlord Grimlock stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Blood Reaper, staring at the blue and green planet called Earth. Behind him, 300 Vorthok warships waited in formation, ready to deliver what he believed would be the final blow to human resistance. Intelligence reports show most human military ships are scattered across the galaxy, reported his second-in-command War Captain Brutok. Earth appears to have only a small defensive fleet, perhaps 50 ships at most. Grimlock showed his teeth in what the Vorthok called a battle smile. Perfect. The humans thought they could hide behind the Galactic Council's protection. Now that they have withdrawn from the Council, they are helpless. Should we demand their surrender first, Warlord? Yes. Let them know they are beaten before we destroy them. It will make the victory sweeter. What Grimlock could not see were the dozens of human ships hiding throughout the solar system. Captain Elena Vasquez commanded one of these invisible vessels, the stealth destroyer Silent Thunder. She watched the Vorthok fleet through sensors that the enemy could not detect. "All ships report ready, Captain," said her weapons officer, Lieutenant Mark Davis. "The Vorthok have no idea we're here. Good, maintain radio silence until the signal comes from Earth Command." Elena had been waiting for this moment for 3 years. The Vorthok had killed her brother when they destroyed the transport ship Morning Star. She had watched the recordings of the attack, seen how they had targeted the escape pods, making sure no one survived. Today, she would have her revenge, on Earth. Deep beneath the Swiss mountains, General Marcus Webb stood in the most secure command center on the planet. Around him, hundreds of technicians worked at computer stations, coordinating with human assets across the galaxy. The withdrawal had been just the first step of a much larger plan. "General," called out Colonel Amy Foster, "we're getting confirmations from all sectors. Operation Recall is complete. Every human asset is now in position, and our friends in the outer systems. All research stations have been activated. The defense networks are online. We're ready to proceed with Phase 2. Marcus nodded. For 5 years, while the galaxy thought humans were just peaceful traders and diplomats, they had been preparing for this exact situation. Every research station, every trade depot, every cultural center had been designed with a hidden purpose. The Galactic Council had been so focused on human requests for help that they never noticed humans were also building their own solutions. "Sir," reported Communications Officer Lieutenant Paul Kim, "the Vorthok fleet is broadcasting on all frequencies." "Put them through." The main screen showed Warlord Grimlock's scarred face. The Vorthok leader's eyes burned with anticipation as he delivered his message. "Humans of Earth, I am Warlord Grimlock of the Vorthok Empire. Your species has been marked for extinction. You withdrew from the Galactic Council because you knew you were too weak to face us. Now you will pay for your cowardice." Marcus walked closer to the screen, his face calm. "And you are, I am your death, human. Surrender now, and we will kill you quickly. Resist, and we will make your species suffer for generations." "I see. And what makes you think we're interested in surrendering?" Grimlock laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the command center. "You have 50 ships, we have 300. Your military is scattered across the galaxy. You are alone and defenseless." "Defenseless." Marcus smiled, and something in that smile made several people in the command center step back. "That's an interesting assumption. You will surrender within 1 hour, or we will begin the bombardment of your planet." "Counteroffer," Marcus said. "You will leave our system within 10 minutes, or we will show you why the galaxy should have listened when we asked for help." Grimlock's expression changed from amusement to anger. "You dare threaten us? We are the Vorthok. We have conquered 100 worlds, and we are humanity. We've conquered our own planet twice, and we've been perfecting the art of war for 10,000 years before we ever left our solar system." The transmission ended, and Marcus turned to his staff. "Colonel Foster, signal all units. Begin Phase 2. Across the galaxy, humans who had appeared to be simple civilians suddenly revealed their true nature. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, who had been working as a cultural attaché on the Vorthok world of Kragoth, activated systems she had been secretly installing for 2 years. "This is Agent Mitchell," she spoke into a hidden communicator. "I'm in position at the Vorthok Command Center. All their communication systems are under our control." Similar reports came in from dozens of worlds. The trade representatives that humanity had sent to alien planets had been intelligence officers. The research scientists had been saboteurs. The cultural attachés had been spies. For years, while the galaxy dismissed humans as naive and peaceful, they had been mapping every alien world, studying every weakness, and preparing for total war. On the Vorthok homeworld, War General Throck was trying to coordinate the fleet attack when his communication systems suddenly went dark. "What is happening? Why can't I reach the fleet?" His technician pounded on the controls. "Sir, all our communication arrays are malfunctioning. Someone has introduced some kind of virus into our systems. Impossible. Our security is perfect. Sir, we're getting reports from across the planet. Power grids are failing. Transportation systems are shutting down. Even our orbital defense platforms are going offline." In the command center on Earth, Marcus watched as reports came in from across the galaxy. "Sir, Vorthok homeworld is completely cut off from their fleet. Their planetary defenses are down." "What about their other worlds?" "Same story. Our people have been busy." Marcus turned to the main display, which showed the positions of Vorthok ships throughout the galaxy. There were thousands of them, but they were now isolated from each other, unable to coordinate their actions. "Phase 3 is ready for your authorization." "General," reported Colonel Foster. "Not yet. Let's see if they're smart enough to understand what's happening back in the solar system." Warlord Grimlock was discovering that his intelligence reports had been very wrong. His sensors were now detecting human ships appearing all around his fleet. Ships that had been invisible moments before were suddenly there, surrounding the Vorthok formation. "How many ships are out there?" he demanded. "Unknown, Warlord. Out. Sensors are being jammed. But it appears we are outnumbered." "Impossible. Intelligence said they only had 50 ships." "Intelligence was wrong, sir." Captain Elena Vasquez smiled as she watched the Vorthok fleet trying to figure out what was happening. Her ship, along with dozens of others, had been waiting in the outer system for days. The Vorthok had flown right into the trap. "All ships. This is Silent Thunder. Wait for the signal from Earth Command." On Earth, Marcus received a final report. "General, all human assets are in position. We have operational control of 80% of Vorthok infrastructure. Their fleet is surrounded and cut off from support. Send one final message to their warlord." The communication channel opened again, and Grimac's face appeared on the screen, no longer confident. "Human, what have you done?" "We've done what we tried to do through the Galactic Council for 3 years. We've taken steps to protect our people. The difference is, now we're doing it our way. This is impossible. You are a peaceful species. You don't have the capability for this kind of operation." Marcus leaned forward. "You made the same mistake as everyone else. You thought peaceful meant weak. You thought diplomatic meant helpless. You thought patience meant cowardice. You were wrong." The battle for Earth lasted exactly 17 minutes. Warlord Grimac gave the order to attack at 14:32 Earth Standard Time. His 300 warships opened fire on what they thought was a small human defensive fleet. The first Vorthok plasma bolts reached their targets at 14:33. They never got to fire a second volley. Captain Rivera commanded the battle cruiser Retribution from Earth's inner defense ring. When the Vorthok weapons hit his shields, he barely felt the impact. The human shields held easily against attacks that should have destroyed them. "Return fire," Rivera ordered calmly. The Retribution's main guns fired once. The railgun projectiles moved at speeds that violated 3 different galactic treaties on weapons technology. The first Vorthok ship, the heavy cruiser Painbringer, simply disappeared. One moment it was there, the next it was a cloud of expanding debris. "Target destroyed," reported his weapons officer, moving to next target. Across the human fleet, the same scene played out. Human weapons that the galaxy had never seen before tore through Vorthok ships like they were made of paper. The Vorthok had brought plasma cannons and particle beams. Humans brought kinetic weapons that hit with the force of small asteroids. Warlord Grimlock watched in horror as his fleet died around him. "How is this possible? Our intelligence said humans had only basic defensive weapons." "Intelligence was wrong about many things," replied his tactical officer, fear clear in his voice. "All ships, concentrate fire on the lead human vessel. Focus everything on one target." 50 Vorthok ships turned their weapons on the human flagship, the UES Defiance. Captain Maya Reeves watched the incoming fire with cold satisfaction. "Shields holding at 97%, reported her defensive officer. "Minimal damage. They're using plasma weapons," Maya said to her crew. "We've been studying technology for 3 years. We know exactly how to defend against it." She opened a channel to the Vorthok flagship. "Warlord Grimlock, this is Captain Maya Reeves. You have 15 minutes to surrender before we destroy the rest of your fleet." "Never, the Vorthok do not surrender." "Then the Vorthok will die." But Earth was just the opening act. Across the galaxy, the true scope of humanity's preparation revealed itself. Every world that had hosted human advisors, every system where humans had established trade stations, every planet where humans had built research outposts, suddenly became part of a coordinated military operation. On the industrial world of Nexus Prime, engineer Lisa Torres was no longer just an engineer. The fusion reactors she had been upgrading for the Zenthari were actually weapons platforms. With the push of a button, she turned the planet's power grid into a massive electromagnetic pulse generator. "This is Agent Torres." She spoke into her communicator. "Nexus Prime is secure. All Vorthok ships in orbit have been disabled." The Zenthari who had employed her watched in shock as their former human workers revealed military equipment hidden in their civilian tools. You were soldiers the entire time." "We were engineers, doctors, teachers, and diplomats," Lisa replied while activating another hidden weapons system. "But we were also prepared for war." On the Vorthok homeworld of Kragath, Dr. Nina Forster completed her real mission. For 2 years she had been introducing nanoscale machines into the planet's infrastructure, disguised as improvements to their technology. Now those machines activated all at once. "This is Agent Foster," she transmitted to Earth Command. "Kragoth command centers are down. Their orbital defenses are offline. The planet is defenseless." Or General Throck tried desperately to restore communication with his fleet, but every system on the planet was failing. "How is this happening?" "We scanned her equipment dozens of times. She's been introducing the nanites gradually," reported his chief scientist. "Small amounts mixed in with legitimate technology upgrades. Over 2 years, she's infected our entire infrastructure." Nina stepped out of the shadows where she had been hiding. "You should have listened when we asked for protection through the Council. Now you get to learn what happens when humans protect themselves. You were a cultural attaché. You were studying our art." "I was." "Your art is beautiful. It's a shame your species chose violence over creation." She pressed a button on her hidden device. Across the planet, every Vorthok military installation went dark. Their communication arrays fell silent. Their defense platforms powered down. In one moment, the most aggressive military species in the galaxy became helpless. The pattern repeated on world after world. Humans who had appeared to be simple civilians revealed that they were highly trained military operatives. The research stations they had abandoned became forward operating bases. The trade depots they had built became supply centers for human fleets. Captain Elena Vasquez watched from the silent thunder as Vorthok ships throughout the solar system tried to retreat, but they were surrounded, outnumbered, and outgunned. Human stealth ships that had been invisible emerged from every direction. "All Vorthok vessels, this is Captain Vasquez. You have one chance to surrender. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded." Some of the Vorthok ships tried to fight. They lasted seconds against human weapons technology that was decades ahead of anything the galaxy had seen. Others tried to run, but human ships were faster and more maneuverable. Within minutes, the entire Vorthok fleet was either destroyed or captured. Back on Earth, General Marcus Webb received reports from across the galaxy. "Sir, Operation Cleansing is proceeding ahead of schedule. Vorthok resistance is collapsing on all fronts. Casualties minimal on our side. The enemy never had a chance to coordinate a defense." Marcus nodded. This was what happened when humans stopped trying to solve problems with diplomacy and started solving them with military precision. The Vorthok had spent years studying human weaknesses, but they had never bothered to study human strengths. On the Galactic Council station, emergency meetings were being called as reports came in of the Vorthok military's complete collapse. Council President Morgith stared at the tactical displays in disbelief. "This is impossible. The Vorthok had the strongest military in the galaxy. How could they be defeated so quickly?" "It appears the humans were better prepared than anyone realized," replied Councillor Zethra. "Our intelligence services failed completely. But humans are peaceful. They spent years asking us for help instead of fighting. Maybe that should have told us something about their true capabilities. A species that can show such restraint despite having such power. We seriously misjudged them." In the Vorthok home system, the last battle was ending. Admiral Jack Morrison, who had been training alien defense forces just days before, now commanded a human fleet that was systematically destroying every Vorthok military asset in the system. Admiral reported his communications officer were receiving surrender requests from 17 remaining Vorthok ships. "Tell them to power down all weapons and wait for boarding parties. Any ship that shows hostile intent will be destroyed." Within hours, the Vorthok Empire that had terrorized the galaxy for decades was finished. Their fleets were destroyed, their planets occupied, their leadership captured or dead. The species that had believed strength came from aggression learned too late that true strength came from preparation, patience, and the will to act when action was needed. As the last Vorthok ship surrendered, Admiral Morrison opened a channel. "To Earth Command. This is Admiral Morrison. The Vorthok military no longer exists. All objectives have been achieved. The galaxy would never again underestimate the species that had spent 3 years asking politely for help, while secretly preparing to provide their own solution. 3 months after the Vorthok Empire became extinct, the galaxy gathered for an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The great chamber that had once been filled with confident alien leaders now hosted a very different kind of meeting. Fear had replaced arrogance, and uncertainty had replaced dismissal. Ambassador Rachel Hayes stood at the podium where David Winters had once begged for protection. But where Winters had requested help, Hayes simply informed the Council of Humanity's decisions. She did not ask for permission. She did not seek approval. She stated facts. The human species will no longer participate in this council, she announced to the silent chamber. We have tried your system of committees, debates, and empty promises. It failed to protect our people, so we will protect ourselves. Council. President Morgeth leaned forward in his seat. Ambassador Hayes, surely we can discuss this. The council is willing to make changes to address humanity's concerns. Where were those changes 3 months ago when our civilians were dying? Rachel asked coldly. Where was your willingness to act when we submitted evidence of Vorthok atrocities? We were following proper procedures. Your procedures killed innocent people. We will not make that mistake again. Councillor Thylix of the Morathian Republic tried a different approach. Ambassador, what happened to the Vorthok was excessive. Surely complete extermination was not necessary. Rachel turned to face him directly. The Vorthok chose their fate when they declared war on humanity. We offered them surrender. They refused. We offered them exile. They chose to fight to the death. We honored their choice. The chamber erupted in nervous whispers. The complete destruction of the Vorthok Empire had sent shockwaves through the galaxy. A species that had existed for thousands of years had been wiped out in a matter of days. Their homeworld was now a dead rock. Their colonies were abandoned ruins, and their name had become a warning to others. But surely, continued Thylix, such drastic action sets a dangerous precedent. What if other species decide to solve their problems through violence instead of diplomacy? Then they should be very careful about who they choose as enemies, Rachel replied. We spent 3 years trying diplomacy. We filed reports, submitted evidence, requested mediation, and begged for justice. The council ignored us. The Vorthok mistook our patience for weakness. Both made fatal errors in judgment. Fleet Admiral Maya Reeves entered the chamber, her uniform decorated with medals from the Vorthok campaign. Her presence caused another wave of nervous murmurs among the council members. They all knew she was the officer who had given the order that started humanity's withdrawal from galactic civilization. The Admiral will now outline humanity's new position in galactic affairs. Rachel announced. Maya approached the podium with calm confidence. Humanity will establish our own sphere of influence, separate from council authority. We will protect those species that request our aid, on our terms. What terms? Asked Morgeth. Simple ones. We provide protection, technology, and trade. Return. Those under our protection follow human law within our sphere of influence. No aggression against peaceful species, no attacks on civilian targets, no slavery or genocide. And if species refuse these terms, then they remain outside our protection. What happens to them is not our concern. The implications were clear to everyone in the chamber. The galaxy was being divided into 2 zones: the human sphere, where law and order would be enforced with overwhelming military power, and everywhere else where the old chaos would continue. Councillor Zathera spoke up. This amounts to creating a human empire. How is this different from what the Vorthok tried to do? Maya's expression hardened. The Vorthok conquered through fear and brutality. They destroyed cultures, enslaved populations, and murdered anyone who resisted. We offer partnership and protection to those who want it. But what if species within your sphere disagree with human laws? Then they can leave. We don't force anyone to accept our protection, but those who do accept it will follow our rules. The demonstration of human power had been thorough and terrifying. After the Vorthok homeworld fell, human forces had systematically destroyed every Vorthok military installation, every weapons factory, every ship capable of faster-than-light travel. The species that had once terrorized the galaxy was reduced to pre-industrial survivors on a handful of remote worlds. But more disturbing to the council members was what they had learned about human intelligence capabilities. For years, humans had been placing agents throughout the galaxy, mapping weaknesses, studying alien technology, and preparing detailed plans for war with every single species. "We know about the files," said Thylex quietly. "Our intelligence services were found evidence that humanity has battle plans for every member of the Council." "Of course we do," Maya replied without hesitation. "Any competent military maintains contingency plans for all possible conflicts. We studied your species, your technology, your tactics, and your weaknesses. It's called being prepared. But the detail of these plans, you know exactly how to defeat every one of us." "Yes, we do. Just as we knew exactly how to defeat the Vorthok. The difference is, we have no intention of implementing those plans unless forced to defend ourselves." The silence in the chamber was deafening. Every species present suddenly understood that humanity had been studying them as potential enemies while smiling at diplomatic dinners and cultural exchanges. General Marcus Webb joined Maya at the podium. "The Council seems surprised that humans are capable of long-term strategic planning. You assumed that because we prefer diplomacy, we were incapable of warfare. This assumption was incorrect. Humans have been perfecting the art of war for thousands of years before we reached the stars. We are very good at it. We simply chose not to demonstrate these skills until forced to do so." "But why the deception?" asked Morgeth. "Why pretend to be peaceful while preparing for war?" "We weren't pretending," Marcus replied. "We genuinely preferred peaceful solutions. We spent 3 years trying to solve the Vorthok problem without violence, but we also prepared for the possibility that diplomacy would fail. And now the galaxy knows what happens when humanity's patience runs out. Several council members tried to negotiate. They offered humanity permanent seats with veto power, control over security decisions, and leadership of military operations. Each offer was politely declined. "You had the chance to work with us as partners," Rachel explained. "You chose to treat us as junior members whose concerns could be ignored. That opportunity will not come again." As the session ended, the new reality of galactic politics became clear. Humanity was no longer asking for permission to act. They were informing other species of decisions that had already been made. Within weeks, dozens of species requested admission to the Human Protection Zone. The Klexari, still struggling with pirate attacks after human advisors left, were among the first. The Xanthari, facing economic collapse without human technology, quickly followed. Those who entered the human sphere found it to be exactly as promised. Pirates disappeared from trade routes. Aggressive species learned to behave peacefully or faced immediate military response. Technology advanced rapidly as human knowledge was shared freely. Those who remained outside found themselves in an increasingly dangerous galaxy as predatory. Species realized that human protection was no longer freely available. The galaxy had entered a new age. Some called it the human peace, others called it the age of consequences. But every species, in every system, learned the same lesson that would echo through history. Humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their weapons, it was their patience. And no civilization that valued survival would ever test that patience again.